At a small farm in Windham, Maine, Ben Whalen and Melissa Law are asking big questions.
As farmers, as a community, we're going to be the most affected by changing weather. In 50 years, I can't imagine what the climate's going to be like.
The weather patterns are changing and our growing seasons are changing and we're having more extreme weather events and we all need to figure out how to adapt.
And so we want to be that voice for the next generation of farmers.
Back in 2016, Ben and Melissa, along with Jeff and Abby Fisher, bought 89 acres with help from some people committed to preserving farmland in Maine.
Honestly, land access is a huge challenge for young farmers because so much land is getting eaten up for development in Maine and across the country. And so we were so fortunate to find this property through Maine Farmland Trust.
Along with a low-cost loan from Coastal Enterprises, a group committed to growing good jobs in rural Maine, they were off and running.
So over here, these are examples of our fall greens that got planted a couple weeks ago, and we have the caterpillar structure. We haven't put plastic on this yet just because it's been so hot. We're anticipating probably in the next 2 weeks we'll put plastic on this, and then right next to it we have stuff to install the bows, but these will be up with plastic on until we get a heavy snow load. They can stand up to a light snow load, but a heavy snow load would knock them out. So these are different from the high tunnels in that the high tunnels are pretty permanent structures. They provide controlled environments. In the summer seasons, we grow a lot of our hot crops that are pretty susceptible to different weather. Tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, things like that. But more importantly, they help us in the shoulder seasons. So they're helping us in the fall and spring. We're able to plant greens and harvest out of here. We'll be harvesting out of here February and March next year.
Diversification of crops is important to their business model, including flowers.
It's growing. I think now it's probably around 15 or 20% of our income. And we're always exploring new ways to grow that income. But we also want to make sure that it works in terms of our family life and our personalities.
So it's a big struggle, as it is with all farmers, business-wise and weather-wise.
Oh, what are you making?
It's year-round farming. We try to take a break. Historically, we've taken basically Christmas to the end of January off. And by off, I mean we're just planning in the office rather than being outside. But what we're trying to do and what we need to be doing as a business is figuring out how we can be more productive in the shoulder seasons and in the wintertime. It's growing more storage crops in the field for the winter. It's having more spaces like this that can actually be productive in the wintertime.
This is the end of our 5th season, and every year we're experiencing different weather patterns. Last year we had a hailstorm sweep through the farm. It totally wiped out our onion crop and had pretty severe impact on our peppers and eggplant.
And that really just exemplified how important having protected spaces are for us for those summer crops that are really big cash crops for us in the summer season.
But that's one of the reasons that we're a diversified farm, because we think that not only is diversity of our crops healthy for the soil, it's also healthy for our business.
None of this keeps Ben and Melissa from dealing with those big questions. How do young farmers trying to make a living running an organic farm tackle climate mitigation? They call it regenerative agriculture, invigorating the soil while capturing carbon at the same time.
For us, regenerative farming, I think there's a lot of definitions. If you ask any farmer, they'll probably tell you something a little bit differently, but the one thing that's I think everybody has in common, it's soil focused. So it's really focusing on the health of the soil first. The idea being that if we take care of our soils, the soils are going to take care of us. We'll be more productive, it'll help our businesses grow, our soils will be more resilient when they're more healthy.
Regenerative agriculture to us means creating systems that are self-sufficient and self-sustaining. So rather than constantly bringing in inputs from off-farm, we're using compost that we make here or that we buy in from other local farms to help regenerate the soil. And we're rotating crops and cover crops to improve the health of our soil.
It really all comes down to soil health and managing soils in a way that could actually be creating soil carbon, pulling carbon out of the atmosphere and putting it into the soil. And there's a lot of challenges involved with that, and a lot of techniques and tools that need to be incorporated to do that successfully. But it's a change that needs to happen. And that's a very easy way that farming can be part of the solution, not just neutral, but actually mitigating climate change.
All of this with the goal of improving the quality of the land and the ecosystems here on our farm so that they can last for generations.
And then the other thing that we're focused on as a farm is trying to reduce our tillage. So we're trying to not use the tiller in the field as much as possible. And what that means is we're using other implements that are less abrasive when it comes to the microbial communities and soil structure. It's very labor intensive. And that's kind of, I think the shift is that we're relying more on human power than on tractor power. And that too is kind of a shift. You know, we're not relying as much on fossil fuels for this work. It's a lot of hand labor.
Both Ben and Melissa believe that they need to be a strong voice on these issues. Ben speaks out via op-ed letters to newspapers, and Melissa is a member of the Governor's Climate Council.
I feel really strongly that if I don't speak up, who will? And I think that for future generations, we need to start coming up with solutions and start acting now, and I'm honored to be a part of the conversation, and I think it's really important to have young voices as a part of this conversation because we're the ones who are going to be impacted moving forward.